All in favour, raise your hand, please. Thank you, carried. Confirmation status of the agenda. Now, the Chief Executive has another engagement at 10 with the Regional Leaders Group, I think it is. So we're going to move item 6.4 to the first item of business. Is there any other requests to move anything? All right, I'll move that the agenda is confirmed with that move of 6.4 to the first item. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Gibb. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of interest? There'll be no disclosure of interest. We'll move to confirmation of the minutes, and that is on page 5 of the agenda. Have we got someone that's prepared to move the confirmation of the minutes? Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Councillor McAnally. All in favour? Show of hands, please. Carried. All right, actions register. There are 2 items there on page 15. I think there is one that we can carry forward, which is, let me just find it, please. The communications team on the external facing policies. Melissa, are you here? Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
That's an item that we should carry forward, I believe.
Yes, it is a work in progress, and we have made some progress on that. We have got some additional policies up on the website, but we are still working on it to get them all up.
All right, so we'll carry that one forward. Thank you. Number 2 there, the water supply bylaw, etc. That was adopted, appears to be complete. Is there any reason why we should not remove that from the list? Roger, is that your area? I'm sorry, Jody. Is Jody on the call? No, perhaps Roger, can you help there?
Yep, no, that was reviewed as part of, as we finalised that piece of work. So yes, it can be removed.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on those items? There being none, we'll move to the reports, and we go to 6.4, the Chief Executive. Thank you, Gavin.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. All right, so this is my normal monthly report. Just a few things I'd like to comment on, Mr. Chair. So firstly, in terms of the progress we're making around capital works, 6.16 million was for the first 2 months of the year, so we're a little behind, and hoping that we'll be able to pick this up. But obviously that's around the context of obviously having been in a lockdown situation as well. That will slow progress down, unfortunately. I just want to talk a little bit, if I may, Mr. Chair, around the council position on the future of local government. So we had intended to bring something to you earlier. We did the workshop in August, but then have sort of got caught up. And so we've prepared a paper which we want to bring to the council. The plan on that is early November, with some thinking around that. So that's the update on that one, Mr. Chair. Just other things I just wanted to comment on. Obviously, the 3 waters, we submitted our submission, and the government is currently considering all the submissions they've received, and we're expecting to get some feedback or a summary of those submissions from DIA within the next couple of weeks, and also some indication from central government about what their decision is about whether they wish to progress this reform or not. So that's obviously something that we're waiting on at the moment. In terms of one of the things that, one of the goals that was set for me was around involvement with central government. And obviously through, I guess, if there's a silver lining to the current COVID outbreak, it's been that we have been able to strengthen relationships with central government. not only at a regional sense, but also through the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. The Mayor has obviously had a lot of contact with DPMC, and so have I as well, which has been really useful. And also connecting in previously with Minister Megan Woods around the Waikato Housing Initiative and the opportunity there for funding. So that's probably a summary of the main things, I think, Mr. Chair. That, one last thing I just wanted to comment on. We have appointed a climate action coordinator. Jim, I'm not sure when the lady starts.
Yeah, Rachel Goddard started on Monday, so today's
Okay,
day 3, and she's been making contact.
All right, thanks for that, Jim. All right, so that's an update, Mr. Chair, and happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? So can you use the reactions hand up so that we can rather look at, there's more than one page on the screen now. So I think Councillor Lynch, you have your hand up. Thank you.
Thank you. So I prepared this little menu yesterday or the day before. So I'll be going over a couple of things that you've not clarified enough for me, Gavin. So the first one is page 95. It's the local government thing. On paragraph 3, I have written here in my little menu, since I only have this screen, I'm looking forward to the compilation of the workshop prior to the 31st of August and the current available thinking that will help shape local government. And I'm particularly interested in the initial thinking of what skills and experience will be beneficial to help with the changing role of local government, especially in relation to our basic rights as a democratic nation to vote for representatives of our individual choice. So my question is, do you have more available thinking that will help shape local government, staff and yourself? Do you know where I'm coming from?
Are you talking about over and above the workshop that was held with councillors?
Yeah, yeah, because you've said that you're going to have some more available thinking when you put your paper to us.
Yes.
So yeah. I suppose it's a bit difficult for you to expand on that now.
Look, I can't tell you the specifics of it, but what I can tell you is that, yes, we've done some research from other sources as well to be able to give you some informed thinking is the gist of it. So, so we've taken the information that councillors provided. We've also looked at other research that's been done, had a look at the work that the panel has done when they went around the country, the panel that's been appointed by central government to look at this. So we've again looked at that work amongst other things. So yes, we will have some work and some ideas to put to you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, mate. Page 97, 4.3. The Huntly Resource Recovery Centre.
Yeah.
Which workshop is this referring to?
There was a workshop held, I believe, looking at Roger, but I believe, was it last week or the week before?
Okay, I didn't know about that one, Rog.
It would have been when we all had a conversation. It would have been a couple of weeks ago now, Gavin.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any movement on that?
Staff were asked to head off and have further conversations with the potential landlord there, whilst also looking at broader options. Councillor Patterson, do you have any other comments on what's happened since then?
Yes, I can. But we probably did in these previous discussions and hearing the feedback from the Huntly Community Board as in to the White Street option. So staff are looking at other options within the Huntly area. So that's probably it at this stage, but I think there's some good work happening there.
Oh, that's good. Just as long as I know about what's going on, that's all.
Yeah. Yep. Look, we can well, there's work going on, but probably nothing of, I mean, it's just doing quite a bit of groundwork at this stage, but definitely will inform you as the steering group get more information.
You don't be making any decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Have you got further questions?
Yes, I have, sir. Thank you very much. So page 98, item 5.2, and it's about the relationship with Waka Katahi on the Sleepyhead appeal. Gavin, is there anything more you can tell us about that? So staff have brokered some discussions with Waka Katahi and Regional Council?
So, look,
I think, Kevin, it comes under the PDP committee, which we met yesterday, and I think it's fair to say that the staff are working in some trying circumstances, but also with the Regional Council, and I don't really in a public forum want to go into that, but there's some very good progress being made with our staff, solicitors and consultants with the team that is part of the committee. So I think it's fair to say that progress is being made, and we're hopeful that things will be resolved sooner than later.
Okay, then, Mr. Chair, would you be able to ring me later and bring me up to speed on it, please?
I can do that.
Mr. Chair, I can say something, which is I have been talking to Chris McClay from Waikato Regional Council this morning about the WRC, the Waikato Regional Council appeal. Again, just trying to see if we can progress that faster. And I understand the Mayor is also planning to talk to Chris as well, which I think would be a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to know how it's going, how you guys are progressing. So my last one is page 98, 5.4, and it's what you said about Minister Megan. So you've got a housing program for the Waikato region?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so is there any chance of knowing a bit more about that?
Well, it's really been, it's how can I describe it? It's effectively what we've talked to the minister about is there is a whole range of projects waiting to go, of which Waikato District has a number of projects, and other councils also have a number of projects. What we were talking to Minister Megan Woods about was everything is connected up. The Mayoral Forum is a body that is coordinating this work with the help of the Waikato Housing Initiative, and we didn't go into the specifics of the program other than to say that the councils are working together on it. I know that sounds a bit vague, but it was really selling the overarching concept of we're all working together. We have a program of work. We just need to prioritize that program of work in order to advance, to advance housing within the Waikato region. The Deputy Mayor and myself have just come off a meeting with the Waikato Housing Initiative around the Infrastructure Acceleration Fund, and we're expecting to get that the results of that will be released soon, I think is really the gist of it.
Oh, okay. It was when looking at that agreement with Philip Leather about building all those new houses for Kainga Ora, which will be, like some transported down to Rotorua. I wondered where else the others were going, 3 and 4 bedroom houses. I'm just interested in keeping up with what the housing development is going to be in the Waikato and obviously in Huntly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the end of mine. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
So we've got Councillor Maguire followed by Councillor Beck, then Councillor Rea. So Councillor Maguire.
Yeah, I just wondering, the solid waste and recycling, we were looking at the balance, I think it's the balance building right in Huntley there. Has that gone any further or not? That Councillor Lynch was referring to. She was a bit concerned about utilising that building, but have we got very far with discussing with anyone?
Is this commercially sensitive?
No, look, I can just,
So look, the mayor has indicated to me this is commercially sensitive and we're on a public forum here. So I'm not sure that we should discuss the particulars in public, Rob, but we will get back to you afterwards. Can we go to the mayor for a comment, please?
Oh, I was just going to suggest let Councillor Patterson answer that. There is commercial sensitivity in here. I don't want to talk about locations or anything like that, but I'll let him talk because he is handling it and doing a damn good job too. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Look, through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Maguire. Yes, there is progress happening on some options with this with a resource recovery centre in Huntley. That's probably the simplest at this stage. So it is advancing along.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beck.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Gavin, just a couple of questions for you. Roger, you might want to get your finger close to the unmute button. Just starting on page 94, 1.2 capital works. So, you know, we're hitting the new construction season and not quite with the gusto we'd hoped, you know, with COVID delays and potentially supply chain issues. I'm just wondering whether I should start worrying yet. Roger is well aware of my monthly question on where will we end up.
Just while Roger thinks about that, from the Three Waters perspective, the Waters Governance Board met with the Watercare Board in September and also discussed this very issue around how we keep the Three Waters capital program on track. So, and look, I guess it's really with the Watercare staff to come back to us on how they plan to do that. But I'll hand over to Roger, who can maybe cover other stuff.
Yep, thank you for that, Gavin. Councillor Beck, so look, yes, you should be concerned. The reality is we aren't able to start the construction season as we planned. We have a window every year of from the beginning of October through to sort of end of April, May to actually do construction works. So any delays do have a consequence. Horsham Downs, for example, we were anticipating getting in there early October. We're having to push that out a few weeks. You get to the point where you can't absorb these delays in the works program, and so your ultimate completion date does get pushed out. We are seeing more and more constraints regarding supply chain issues in terms of play equipment, for example, that's manufactured up in Auckland. We're no longer getting those products anymore, and even things like galvanizing. That's not happening, so you've got a backlog of wherever you need a galvanized dip piece of metal. So look, I think we're all probably right to be concerned about the evolving picture here. There is a report that's coming to infrastructure, I think it's next week. Probably doesn't say a lot more than I've shared with you now, but ultimately staff are acutely aware of how do we keep delivering under these challenging times, and we will be giving you regular updates on implications as they come to hand.
Thank you. Is that sufficient?
I think so. It'll obviously be we're at the very start of the construction season, so it'll be something that let's hope that we have some agility to alter plans according to the circumstances. Thank you for that answer. My second and final question, Gavin, I wonder if you could just talk to us a little bit more about the vaccination considerations that hit the front page of the paper in regards to our front-facing, customer-facing staff, and that tension between their safety, I suppose, but also the safety of the public that we serve, particularly in libraries and pools and those sorts of situations.
I look, through you, Mr. Chair, it's a challenging space at the moment. We have not had, contrary to what was suggested in the newspaper, we have not engaged with our unions yet around this issue around vaccination. Essentially what we need to do is we need to undertake a risk assessment. A risk assessment of particular roles within council which require vaccination or vaccinated employees to conduct. And I think that's probably become closer to home given the decisions by the government around education and also health. So where we have roles in particular, so where I'm thinking at the moment is where we have roles in particular that are dealing with children, we are going to have to really make sure that we do a thorough risk assessment. And that's probably about as far as I can go at the moment. The situation is unclear from a legal perspective. I've seen different legal opinions, some that are saying that that vaccination can be enforced. You have others that saying it can't. The two cases that have gone through the Employment Relations Authority have been really around frontline staff at borders, and they have been in favour of the employer. But I don't think we should take that necessarily as a guide of everything. So I don't know whether that answers your question or not, but it's an evolving issue that we need to continue to work at and to get guidance on.
I'll make the comment, if I may, Mr. Chair, with your indulgence. This is actually an issue where some haste is required. We see that clearly with the push from the government. The Super Saturday is about to be upon us. So I absolutely respect your process, that a risk assessment is the first step. I urge that it be done with some speed because haste is actually required. Potentially we've got libraries opening next week. With serving a part of our community that is inherently potentially not vaccinated, and children will attend, and currently below 12s are not eligible. So there's a large unvaccinated population there that are our customers. Let's move with haste, please, would be my urging. Thank you.
So we've got three more Thank you, Councillor Beck. We've got three more wanting to ask questions. We've got the Chief Executive for a further 6 minutes. So I am going to ask that put one question each at this stage, please. Councillor Church, then Mrs. Mana Tafongai, and then Councillor Wallerton. And I will, have to cut you off at 10 to release the Chief Executive to this other meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor Church.
Thank you, through the chair. Just on that, going back to that solid waste, just when you're doing the updates, Gavin, can we make sure that we also have the Northern Bollard Road Resource Centre as well, because that's obviously an issue going forward. You've made that comment around the LTP on page 98. So yes, it's good that we progress at Hutley, but we've got the issue in the north around the LTP as well. Thank you.
Thank you. He's noted that. Mrs. Mana Tafongai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on Councillor Beck's question around the immunisation, is there value in working with the other councils that butt up against us, maybe the future-proof councils, because I don't know, but are the unions the same that each one deals with? And the issue would be the same with each council as well. Maybe it can be done a little bit quicker as a joint effort.
We'll leave that with the Chief Executive and his HR person to deal with. Thank you for a good question. Councillor Wallerton.
Yeah, I was just curious. There seems to be a fair bit of movement in staff. Just wanted to know if you knew the percentage of staff we have compared to what we expect of what should be there. And there might be a follow-up question.
Sorry, do you mean in relation to vaccinations?
No, just are we running a 90% full occupancy of staff? Are we 98? Are we 70%? Yeah.
No. And look, I'm going off memory here. My suggestion would be we're probably at 90%. And probably to just track what happened through the first series of lockdowns. We had a year when we had very little staff turnover. Then we probably about March this year, we started to see some turnover, and the turnover is starting to increase. And I think a lot of that, and look, there's no one particular reason why. There have been, in some cases, people making lifestyle choices to move home, to move to the Bay of Plenty or somewhere else, those kind of things. There have been some which have been around developing their careers. There have been some who have decided to retire. So we've had a whole combination of reasons why things have happened. But currently, I'd say we're about 90%.
Okay, and just the final point. So so what do we normally run at? Is probably, and then we'll just give us some yeah. So the second question was the reason. You've answered that, and then what do we normally run at, or what level are you happy at?
I'd love to be 100%, but reality is we never have 100%. There's always some degree of turnover. Maybe I would suggest probably historically somewhere between 90 and 95%, probably a little bit short of 95% is historically what we would have had.
Thank you.
Okay, I had 2 or 3 questions given, but one from me. In under 5, you've got this return of a piece of land working with Department of Conservation, etc. Whereabouts is this land that?
Oh, okay, that's Tapina, which is the Mercer Reserve.
Ah, okay, that's fine. Thank you. All right, I think at this stage that's the end of the questions for the Chief Executive. I didn't move a resolution at the start. Receiving all reports. So can we have someone move that we receive the Chief Executive's report? Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Mrs. Marana Tafongai. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Carried. Thank you, Chief Executive.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right, so now we return to the items and the update on the policy and bylaw review, which I understand is Melissa. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Melissa's given me permission, if I may, to introduce Rachel Goddard, who I mentioned earlier has started as Senior Advisor Climate Change. She's Senior Advisor Climate Action. She's here on the call just observing, and just say a quick hi. She's RGOD 001 on the screen.
Okay, just introduce yourself then, please.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Jim. I've just joined. It's my second day at the council, and I'm looking forward to working with you all to achieve climate action in the region. And I will be in contact with everyone, building some relationships and getting a works plan underway to progress this mahi. Thank you.
Welcome. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's hope you do. All right, Melissa, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would also like to introduce our policy advisor, Anthea Sayer. I'm very excited to finally have her on board as a part of the corporate planning team. You just want to say hi, Anthea.
Morning, everyone. I think this is week 6 for me, so it's been an interesting time starting a new job in lockdown. But I'm really looking forward to having making some progress in this area and being confronted with about 200 policies that will certainly keep me busy.
Welcome aboard. Thank you very much. All right, Melissa, we go for it.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just provide an update in terms of an overview of what's happening in the policy and bylaw space. And then I'll provide a specific update around the keeping of animals bylaw. So as was mentioned earlier in the meeting, the water supply bylaw and the stormwater bylaw has been adopted as per the report. The livestock movement bylaw is currently out for consultation. I think the next item on the agenda is a report to re-adopt the statement of proposal and to extend the consultation timeframes out till the end of November. That came at the request of Federated Farmers, just taking into consideration the impacts of COVID lockdown and their ability to connect in with their stakeholders. We do have quite a bit coming up for the next P&R agenda in November. So at that meeting, we're hoping to present the speed limit bylaw and the dog control bylaw and policy for approval for public consultation. And following on from that, we also have the gambling venues policy and the Easter trading policies that we have got a workshop with council on next week. And all going well, we do hope to also present those to the November P&R for public consultation as well. Mr. Chair, I was just thinking, do we want to take questions on those before we move on to the keeping of animals bylaw?
Well, we could, and I just wonder whether we need to ask questions about a workshop that's coming up. Perhaps we wait, if there's anything in relation to that, we wait till the actual workshop. So is there any questions of Melissa in general on the Councillor Eyre, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome to your new team member, Melissa. Great to have you get a little bit of extra support. Look, I just am wondering, in light of the fact that there are a number that are overdue, is there work being done in the space to prioritise those ones?
Are you talking about the policy specifically?
Yeah, well, just all of them, in particular, obviously the overdue ones. Some probably are going to be more important for review than others, I would assume. So are you characterising the urgency of them?
Yes, so now that Anthea has come on board, that's one of the tasks that we're working through at the moment, is to develop a criteria which we can assess that prioritisation. Obviously, legislative requirements going to be up there in terms of top priority. One of the things that we do have to take into consideration, though, is the ability for the subject matter experts, because obviously they've only got limited capacity. So where those teams have a number of policies, we will likely have to take a bit of a staggered approach in terms of reviewing those. So it is something that we are working through.
Thank you.
Councillor Church.
Thank you, through the chair. I just have a couple of clarifications. This is mainly of the interdepartmental liaison, really. Page 27, for example, has the cellular network at the top of the page, which is an FDC policy. So, you know, I guess the comments are saying that when leases are updated, one, it makes me think, as you know, cellular policy around the rest of the Waikato District Council, and there's no timelines. So I really, it's just a comment on those things, as we only got issues around cellular in the North Waikato, the old Franklin area. And I guess it's that, you know, finding out from other departments what their timelines actually are rather than when they're completed.
So to answer your first question, as you've pointed out, that's a quite a historical policy that's been brought over from the Franklin amalgamation. As far as I'm aware, cellular network leases aren't an issue in the Waikato district. I'm guessing otherwise we would have created a policy, but we have had discussions around whether or not that policy is useful moving forward. Yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Or just, if I could just jump in there, Mr. Chair. Oh.
Yeah, sorry, or maybe you're going to talk about this, but isn't there a national policy statement or a national directive in relation to cell sites and they sort of usurp the district plan? So is this what we're talking about?
I can answer that. Yes, there is, and that does usurp the district plan for the most part. This policy, this Holder Franklin policy, it's kind of around what we do as landowners and property owners, because we still can say yay or nay on our own facilities. And just to add to what Melissa was saying, when we had discussions with the strategic property team, we thought that we just didn't want to complete, even though it was due for revocation and we're on the cusp of revoking it. We just thought, well, let's make sure we've got the key parts embedded where they need to be in our leases, et cetera, first. So it's on a chopping block, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, and so just two more parts of this. The halls, well, there's quite a few references to policies around the halls and when the general halls policy is adopted. Have we got a time frame around that? Because obviously there's a lot of, that's a lot of our communities and a lot of interest in those halls.
Melissa, is that part of the work that your new members and your employee?
Yes, so Anthea has had a number of discussions in her time already with the community connections team, specifically about those halls policy and the development of the general halls policy.
All right.
I'm not sure if you wanted to comment further, Anthea.
Yeah, I have had a conversation in recent days actually, and there is likely to be a new role in the new year that could look at that area in particular. So we imagine that a general halls policy could be something that's developed next year, depending on the priority of it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just, I think you'll recall through the chair, the halls, last time that we went through this with reviews, it's actually really important to bring those stakeholders, those committees with it. Because last time when they were presented with a fait accompli without very much inclusion into it. So I think before we go too far down the track, that those all committees have, some input into the thinking as to what we've got now before we go too much further ahead. It did cause quite a few issues.
Just before you get the question, I think I have to reiterate Councillor Church's words there insofar as we've got halls and hall committees at very different stages in their maturity as far as the management of the halls, the maintenance of the halls, and the size and quality of the halls. So a one-stop shop document didn't seem to work really well, and it was fraught with tension. So rather than progressing it too quickly, perhaps a discussion with councillors early on would be very helpful in progressing that. So if you could just take that on board, please.
Yeah, thank you through your chair. Yeah, that would be good. And also perhaps a little small stakeholder group of some of those halls. Just lastly, really, this may be for you through the chair, is the stock, bottom of page 31 was the stock underpass financial assistance from Franklin District Council's policy. And I noticed it's there for review. I would have thought it'd be for revoke after the policy that we set for the stock bylaw, because I noticed part of that actually has regard now for some sort of criteria of financial assistance, but I wonder whether that's been really looked at as part of that work that's been done.
Can I just jump in from the stock movement bylaw work that we were, and Eugene and Chris, if I get this wrong, please jump on me. During the discussions with Federated Farmers, it was the policy that went with it is being reviewed, and that's in the package, but anything else that was consequential would be tidied up as a result of the work that was done. So it may be something that we've overlooked and actually physically identified already. It's helpful that you raised it, but it wasn't intended that there would be different policies. It would be the Waikato district policy, and anything that was consequential or that should fall away would do so. So if that's helpful, I don't know, Melissa, whether you'd like to comment further.
No, that sounds right. I support your views.
Thank you.
I guess through you, Chair, I just wanted to flag that with you because I obviously it's hard, haven't got a copy of it, but I think it's important because it actually is presumably a current financial assistance policy, and you've got financial assistance processes in your what we're going out for submission. So just maybe flag that for a look And I guess it's in our, because it's in the North Waikato, I wouldn't mind a copy being sent to us as well, to Councillor Henderson and I as well. Thank you.
Thank you, the Mayor. Thank you.
To take myself off mute, hadn't I? Hey, look, the Waikato District stock moving policy and bylaw actually has always had a financial assistance package as part of it. So it's a joint funding between what we can derive for them through the Waka financial assistance rate and what we provide ourselves, so where most of it actually comes from. So that's always been part of it. I don't know anything about the Franklin one, which is probably needs to be revoked, because you can't have two of them, you can only have one of them. So I don't think there was any discussion around revoking the one that sat in the Waikato District for probably the last 14 or 15 years. I think that was always the carrot that actually helped to support a lot of farmers to do this.
And that's right. Insofar as the Franklin District no longer exists, and the one policy and that financial assistance package was discussed, if Ross is on the call, no, but that was a minor part of the discussions, because we were asked if it would still be there. We said yes, it's part of what's funded by NZTA and council under the criteria in the policy. There'd be one Waikato District policy, and that would cover all of the Franklin and Old Waikato. So we've moved on 11 years and it's Waikato District now. So that Franklin policy should be revoked once we pass this new bylaw. So Councillor, thank you, Mayor, for clarifying. Carolyn, Councillor Rea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, 34, page 33, sorry, rural road lighting, about to revoke the policy based on availability-based assessment. Availability-based assessment, does that mean available funds or available infrastructure capacity?
All right. I
That's
honestly
a good question. I don't have the answer for that one right now, sorry.
Could you and Roger have come up with an answer for us and feed it back to us, please? Thank you. All right, there have been no further questions. Do you want to now move to the specific item you talked about at the start?
Just before we move on, I would like to just note that at the time when, it comes to revoking policies, more detail will be provided around the rationale. This is the register and the attachment in the report is summary comment, so it's quite brief.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So in terms of the keeping of animals bylaw, you might be aware that we have received a complaint against our adoption of the bylaw. This is in specific relation to clause 7.1 and 7.3, which relate to the keeping of poultry. And more specifically in the country living zone. So my understanding is that Kirsty Ridling from our legal team and Gavin have met with the complainant and their solicitor. And our position at the moment is to do a limited notification under section 82 of the Local Government Act. So that's the consultation process that doesn't require the formal hearing statement of proposal process. Yeah, that's, I don't know if you wanted to make any further comment, Kirsty.
Morning, everybody. So we haven't met with the complainant as of yet. We're proposing to have a meeting with the complainant. Not sure at the stage of when, given the uncertainty of levels. There are, apologies if I'm repeating what Melissa said, as Melissa said, there are 4 matters which most of you are aware of. 2 of the matters we are of the opinion do not need to be reviewed, and 2 matters which we will consider for review at this point in time. Happy to take any questions that anyone has.
I'm just wondering, because, well, it was a public meeting, it was a public debate and deliberations and decision made. Is there any risk here if we continue to debate any of this in public until we have some feedback from yourselves?
Potentially, yes. So that's why I sort of kept it as very limited.
In that case, I would really like to hold any comments and questions on it until we can meet in a forum where our comments can be free and frank between ourselves. Councillor Eyre, is your question? You're okay, thank you. And if everyone's of a like mind, thank you for the update on that, Melissa. We will now move to, that was it, wasn't it, from your report?
Yes, that's everything.
Is there any further questions without touching on the last matter that has been raised? There being no further questions, I'll move that the report be received. So thank you, Councillor Church. All in favour, raise your hand. Against, carried. Thank you. All right, now we move to the...
Mr. Chairman, just noting you don't actually need that because it is part of the resolution when we accept the agenda and move items around. Part of the resolution is that all reports be received.
Okay, sorry, I hadn't read that and I'll take your word for it because I didn't leave it in my mind, so that's all right. I'll accept that and we'll move on. Okay, so the extension of the dates of the livestock bylaw, who's going to speak to that? Is it you?
I'm presenting it.
Oh, thank you, Hannah.
Cool. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Good morning, councillors. I'll take the report as read, but I'll just highlight a couple of key points. So this report seeks approval to extend the consultation timeframes for the proposed livestock movement bylaw to end on 29 November instead of 29 October. As Melissa mentioned, this was requested by Federated Farmers, and also this report seeks to adopt an amended statement of proposal. So the proposed extension of consultation timeframes is due to lockdowns in the Waikato district. And the SOP has also been slightly amended to make it easier to read and include determinations as required by the LGA. I'll also note that following feedback received, the bylaw and map was difficult to interpret. An interactive version of the map in the SOP is now on Shape Waikato. Instructions on how to navigate the bylaw have been uploaded as an FAQ document, and the table of road classification, which is the map data in a table format, has been amended to make it easier to interpret. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
So just before I go to the Mayor, Alan Cole, President of Auckland Federated Farmers, contacted me, and with the level 4 lockdown and the unknown timeframes and reduction on levels, asked for an extension. For those of us who are farmers, we do like to get together and chat around these things and come up with consensus at times. And that was where he was coming from, and they would like to hold a meeting, if only one, with members who are comfortable attending, and so the extension was sought to the end of November. We did actually offer them till February, but they thought end of November would be fine. Secondly, David White, our thanks to David for analysing some of the information, and hence the, sorry, I thought that was off. Analysing the data and helping with the amended SOP. So a number of situations have fallen into place. So that's what the report's for. So I'll now go to the Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I have no problem with this and support extending it, but I just want to highlight that if parts of our district are still in a heightened level of 3, meaning behind the quarantine line, or end up being in 4 perhaps, depending on what happens going forward, I wouldn't support extending it any further, because this is one of those things, how long's a piece of string, and everybody has learnt to work, including farmers, I've got to say, have learnt to use phones and Zoom these days. So if they want to connect with members, they should be actually doing it now and doing it through this forum or through a forum similar to this, to actually to be able to do that. So happy to support this and even happy to move it. But I just don't want them coming back halfway through November and says, oh, we haven't had a chance. That won't go down well with me. Just want to line that, because I'm speaking from experience here and dealing with these particular people.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, and Mr. Cole and I have a firm commitment that there will be no further requests. And as you will recall, the fraught issues that and what happened in relation to attempting this 11 years ago, we have nursed this along, and I think we, with Federated Farmers now joining with us to promote this agreed bylaw, we're in a much better position. And for the sake of 4 more weeks, I think the goodwill is now there that we can achieve this, and with their support. And that's all I'm asking for. So I appreciate your moving it. Thank you. Is there someone who would second it? Thank you, Councillor Willison. Is there any further discussion? I put the motion. All in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, Hannah. That was easy, wasn't it? Right. Thanks very much. All right, the next item on the agenda is the animal control report, and I believe we have Tracy Oakes. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, councillors. I'll take the report as read. Does anybody have any questions for me in regards to this report?
The Mayor, do you have questions, or is that from last? No.
No, just to say I'm barking mad about this.
Is there any question?
Sorry, Tracy, I couldn't resist that one. It's just, look, I read it this morning and it does make for interesting reading, though. Love it or hate it, it is a reflection on our world, unfortunately. So, yeah, well done by compiling this.
All right, we do have a taker. Councillor.
Thank you. You'll get there eventually. Thanks for the report, Tracy. It does make for quite interesting reading, and I guess I'm interested in this particularly with quite a significant number of additional dogs in the district. Are we seeing I'm just hesitating to draw a conclusion that says that more dogs means more nuisance or more dangerous dogs, because I suspect that the additional dogs may not be evenly distributed across all owners, if you know what I mean. So I guess I'm asking, my first part of my question is, are we seeing or expecting increasing issues because of the higher number of dogs in total? Question number one. And question number two, just how your team are dealing with the owners, which are often the bigger point of tension, I suppose, in the dogs themselves, given the COVID conditions.
The higher number of dogs is a combination of things, I believe. It's due to the increased new buildings and growth within our district, and also there's a little bit in there to do with the unreg process and not visiting and being able to catch up with every person that didn't register a dog last year. So some of those numbers may not exist, some of them may well exist, but there has been large growth in our district, as we all know. In regards to the dangerous dogs, are you referring to the increase in classified dangerous dogs, or just the comment around the behaviour that we've seen with dogs in the pound?
Really, more dogs in the community potentially posing a hazard to other members of the public and children and so on.
Our numbers of dog attacks have decreased, or dog aggressions, which is a good sign. And I'm not sure that we're seeing more dangerous dogs in our community than normal. I did comment in there that we've seen a few more serious cases, which has been a bit disappointing, but we've dealt with them appropriately or in the process of.
So if I may, so attacks are down, but nuisance is up. but it's nuisance is not posing a danger to the public. It's more sort of a dog howling next door sort of thing.
Yes, nuisance is more to do with barking generally, those complaints. All the barkings. It goes under dog nuisance, sorry.
Yeah, okay. And the final part of my question was just in terms of your processes and procedures and under COVID restrictions in dealing with owners. You've got robust systems in place, of course. Any commentary around that would be helpful.
It is a challenge in level 3 and level 4 situations. The staff are wearing masks at all times when dealing with any members of the public, which provides its own issue because the dogs actually react to the masks and not in a good way. We haven't seen necessarily an increase in violence towards staff during COVID. However, because we're doing less of the easy jobs, coming across the aggressive customer is more common because those are the hard jobs that we're doing on the same basis, but without any of the easier jobs to break it up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Church and Councillor Rea.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. 2 questions. The first one is around, I'm just interested, because obviously we're going to talk about this later on around the bylaw, but in Pocono as a CBD, very busy CBD, 5,000 people there, have there been very many incidences of nuisance in that town, or any issues other than usual dog barking neighbourhood incidents?
I would need to collate those numbers for you. I don't have them to hand.
Okay, that'll be great. Thanks, Tracy. And just I really like this report. I think it's really useful. What I just only say is when we're looking at the numbers per year, but then we've got a growth in the population, can we have it as a percentage on each of those columns? Because obviously we've got a growth of 10% of dogs. So therefore, when we're looking at each of the areas of say dog welfare or whatever, we don't know whether there's actually a real change or whether it's just a growth change or not, because it's only done on numbers rather than on putting it back to a 100 as a line, if you understand what I mean. So like if there's a growth of 10% or 15% in our population, but 15% or 20% in an incident, it really doesn't necessarily mean it's any worse, but we can't actually see that easily in our report.
So can I just go to Sarah or Tracy? This is I suspect, a prescribed report. Is this a council populated document, or is it one that's provided nationally that we populate and then send off to a national DIA or somewhere?
But if you want, Trace. So yes, so the 10A report there's only in 10A of the Dog Control Act, there's a list of things which we must report on annually. The way in which we report on it is something that we decide, and our reports typically follow this format, or at least have done over the last 5 or so years. But so that we could make changes in relation to adding percentages. Although, if I may, Councillor Church, was it more in relation to the cover report to council that you'd prefer to see those percentages, or were you meaning more in the 10A itself?
Well, I'm looking at page 67, the key data. I guess, dogs are important. They're a big population of our, when I think of a stakeholder, they're a big population of our, 15,000 over 83. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I just trying to get a bit more of an understanding. I can do the maths each time I want to look at something, but if we could just have a baseline as added, I think it would be helpful for us in terms of governance.
We can absolutely add that for next year. I suppose it'll be.
Very, very helpful, your report.
Could we just have a show of hands whether that's supported, or is it one councillor, or would there be a general request for that information to change the report? If there's a general support to what Councillor Church is asking, could we just have a show of hands, please? That's about 4 or 5. It's a split there, so maybe just give it some thought as to I'm just not sure we want to change everything just but there seems to be a split as to whether we do or we don't. Thank you very much, Councillor Church. Councillor Rea.
Thank you. Great report, Tracy. Thank you. Really interesting reading. Event planning must be really problematic at the moment. Have you just basically parked all of that?
No, we had made provisional plans for our pink walks, which come up in October, as they are outdoor events that we don't generally have more than 100 people at. In the past, we've had some we have 20 and some we've had 60. However, with the movement back into level 3, we are waiting to see what happens. I think the announcement is today about what we'll do with that. The pink walks are an easier event to cancel or go ahead with. There's not a lot of planning involved as such. We were very fortunate to be able to hold Dirty Dog this year as planned, whereas the previous year we had it cancelled and then rescheduled and cancelled again. And that's the one event that we do hold that does incur costs if it doesn't go ahead.
So you're just basically putting a cap on the amount of entries for the October event, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you.
And I think you meant level 2, not 3. Yeah, so that's fine. Any further questions? All right, so that being the case, we have received the report from, according to our democracy advisor. So that's the end of that. And in reality, that is the end of the business of the agenda. So is there any matter that people need to discuss before
Sorry, Councillor Smith, that's actually an approval report.
That is an approval. All right, thank you.
Sorry. There is a specific resolution for that one.
On page 60.
And it recommends
65.
that council approves the 2021 annual dog control report.
So moved.
So we're recommending it to council to approve.
Happy to second.
So Councillor Beck was it, and Councillor Patterson. All those, and just before I do that, Councillor Lynch, have you got a question? Sorry, I'm allowed to move it. All right, well, we'll put the resolution. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Lynch. No, you were just putting your hand up. Thank you. Right. That is the end of the business and the end of the meeting. So thank you all. Now, can someone tell us what is happening in relation to the workshops, please?
Right. Workshops, righto. We've got 2 workshops today. First one starts at 1 o'clock and it's the workshop on the dog control bylaw, I presume. That's what I've got written down here without looking on my thing. And the other one is a workshop on transport, and Michelle has got some consultants coming in to talk about that, or some other people coming in to talk about that. That's more in relation to the Waikato Hamilton Metro plan in relation to transport going forward for the next 100 years. So they're each meant to go for an hour. So the first one, as I said, starts at 1 o'clock, and I did notice this morning when I was writing out my day's process that the Zoom at 1 o'clock is the same Zoom at 2 o'clock. So I'd assume, Matt, looking at you, that they just roll one into the other. So we don't have to do one or the other. Yeah. So we'll just stay online. We'll just flow